Hello, guys. Welcome to this new edition of Mind Podcast. This is Aadit Kapadia coming to you on a very interesting day because Mind Podcast is going back to full time politics. I mean, obviously, we always talk about politics, but like we promised to last week and the weeks before, we are back with a full political podcast on the Karnataka elections. And together with me, I have author, columnist, analyst, host of the India Rising podcast, my good friend and Karnataka expert, Kishor Narayan.
Thank you, Aadit.
Hi,
Nice to
Kishor.
be back and talking with you.
Yes. And like we say, we don't just call him for Karnataka. Hamara go back in our history. Hamara puchla podcast alag tha. But if I am talking about Karnataka, I mean, there is no other person I would rather have with me talking and doing an in-depth deep dive into the history of Karnataka politics and more than Kishore Narayan. So thank you so much for giving us the time and look forward to this excellent discussion. Exciting discussion, I should say. But discussion होने से पहले मैं excellent क्यों बोल रहा हूँ? Sorry, go on.
No, honored and flattered by your word, and again excited to share whatever I know about my
Yeah.
home.
मैं excellent इसीलिए बोल रहा हूँ because we started talking about this almost a week ago, and there's just a
Indeed.
bunch of other things that came in our mind and stuff. So without further ado, let's kick things off. The Election Commission of India has announced the single-phased elections of Karnataka. They'll be starting on May 10th. And ending on May 10th, so to speak. It's going
Yeah.
to be 40 days of absolute mayhem from now. We're recording this on March 31st in India, and so a lot of you people. The reason I'm saying the date is because a lot of people things will happen, and people will be, "Arey, tumne iski to baat hi nahi ki." Well, this probably happened after we recorded, so that's why
Yeah.
it's very important to say it. Uh, 13th May is when they'll be counting, and we'll obviously bring you two more podcasts, one right before the election right before the polling, and one right after the counting. So and that's a minimum. Usse zyada jo bhi ho, we'll plan and do that. So Kishore, I want to divide this podcast into three parts. The first part is the political history of Karnataka. The second part, we want to talk about the regions of Karnataka, the caste complexities and others. And the third part, we'll go straight into numbers and stuff.
Hmm.
And regions where we'll talk about history also. So, Kishore, let me start before I give the preview, give the overview, can you give us a brief introduction into the world of Karnataka? And the reason I say the world of Karnataka is I use the term for being the political world of Karnataka because a lot of things are not known in
Hmm.
other parts of India, and a lot of things are deliberately kept out by these so-called news anchors because they want to brand the north as one and the south as one rather than analyzing each state on its own. So they do
Yeah.
these kite flying in their Delhi studios. So Kishore, we only do kite flying on Uttarayan. So on the other days we actually basically try to unpack what is on. So Kishore.
Great. Okay. I don't blame people when they say we don't know much about Karnataka. Karnataka, generally, the people out here are quiet, silent. They don't tom about themselves. That's the basic nature of the people here. So in a way, Karnataka can be equated to say a state like Odisha, right? Not many people know about Odisha. Now, politically, far more important than such states. We have 28 seats to the Lok Sabha. Be that as it may, within the southern part of India, the biggest state right now after the bifurcation of Andhra. So quite important politically. Now everybody knows that there was no single political entity prior to the independence. We had the Mysore kingdom, the royal kingdom in what is today the old Mysore region. We also had the Madras presidency, which ruled over two portions of the current state. And then we had the Hyderabad Nizam, who was ruling over a portion of the state. We also had Bombay presidency, which was ruling over quite a large portion of the northern part of the state. Now, 1956 reorganization of states, that's when the state became one. And that's when the entire Kannada speaking population, although certain pockets are left out, but that's not relevant to today's discussion. Large portions of Kannada-speaking population became one single political entity. However, even within the state, there were large differences in terms of demographics, in terms of caste equations, in terms of the influences from the neighboring states. For example, Bombay, Karnataka, which today is called Kittur, Karnataka, has a lot of Marathi influence simply because it was ruled from Bombay. We also have influence of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj. Again, not many people there know Hindi, so you don't need a translator when a national leader, when a central leader comes down. Similarly, the northeastern part of Karnataka, which was ruled by Nizam, today it's called today it's called Kalyani Karnataka, one of the most backward regions of Karnataka, probably of the entire country, not until very long ago, very similar to Telangana. Now, that again is another region where a lot of Telugu influence prevails. Then you have the old Mysore region, which was basically the entire Mysore royal kingdom. And then you also have the coastal Karnataka. Now, the coastal Karnataka during the British rule was split into or ruled by Bombay Presidency in the north and Madras Presidency in the south. Now, both of them are part of the Karnataka state. So, again, politically, you now have Kittur Karnataka, which is northwest, the Bombay Presidency region. Then you have Kalyana Karnataka, which is northeast, which is again once ruled by the Nizams. Then you have the old Mysuru region, where again you look at Bengaluru separately, the greater Bengaluru area. You have the coastal Karnataka, and then you also have Madhya Karnataka, which is the central parts of Shimoga, Gadag, Davangere, and the regions around it. So technically, you have 5 separate regions within the state. And even within these 5, the caste arithmetics are very different. Northern part of Karnataka, you have a lot of Virashaiva/Lingayat influence. They are the dominant community out there. In the southern part, you have the Wakkaligas, also known as the Gaudas, being the dominant force. In the coastal region, caste does not play much of a role. It's more of Hindu versus Muslim, or Hindu versus Muslim and Christian, because the minorities are quite a significant player there. Within Bengaluru, it's far more cosmopolitan because right from say 1960s, you've had an exodus of Tamil-speaking, Telugu-speaking, and now North Indian Hindi-speaking population migrating into Greater Bengaluru region. So you have a lot of mixed cosmopolitan
So
setup out here in the Greater Bengaluru region.
So,
Adit.
to put things into perspective region wise, the reason
Yeah,
why I shared this is to let our folks know what we are talking about here, right? And the reason why what Kishore said is significant is look at the complexity of Karnataka, right? You have the Bombay Karnataka belt, the Hyderabad Karnataka, or the Kitturu and the Kalyana Karnataka, and then you have, and within them also you have regions and so forth. You have the Bengaluru belt, you have the old Mysore region, and then even in the Bengaluru belt you have the Bangalore rural Lok Sabha, where Janata Dal secular suddenly has a presence.
yeah,
Within Bengaluru, of course, it's a straight BJP Congress fight. The urban regions, then you have the coastal Karnataka, then you also have your Hubli Dharwad regions and so forth. So it is a very complicated and fractured state politically. And I don't say
yeah,
fracture. I'm not saying fractured as in the state has fractures. I'm saying the political ethos of the state. So you have political parties dominant in certain regions, and then you have Congress, which has historically had a very strange pan Karnataka presence. And what is weird is whatever, and we'll go into this map in details, but what is weird is even though the BJP has done better in terms of seats, Congress almost always in state elections has always polled more seats than BJP. I don't think BJP has ever taken overtaken Congress in terms of number of votes, right?
During the assembly elections, no, not at all.
I'm talking just assembly. In Lok Sabha,
Yes.
obviously, Karnataka in Lok Sabha is a whole nother beast for which we have 10 extra minutes allotted, because I am fascinated by how that state has voted across the years. But let's talk about Vidhan Sabha right now. And then I want
Yeah.
you to also give a bit of a history, and let's, from the beginning, and we can start. If we don't want to go all the way in the beginning, we can start from the late 80s and 90s, where you had
Hmm.
the Janata Dal movement, where you had Ramakrishna Hegde's, your Devegowda, you had your Yediyurappa, B.S. Yediyurappa, who's been there for a long time, S.M. Krishna, Ishwarappa, all these leaders, stalwarts in their own rights. And from there, you get into the D.K. Shivakumar and your Basavaraj Bommai. At that time, his father, S.R. Bommai, was ruling the roost
Yeah.
in Karnataka. So if you can give
Exactly.
our viewers and listeners a perspective on that.
Yeah. So again, going back to the reorganization of states, when Karnataka became an entity, Congress was the only party which was present all across all the regions of the state. So it was quite natural for them to continuously form governments one after the other, possibly until say mid 1970s, up until the emergency when Devaraj Aras was the chief minister. Now, again, that was also the time when the name of the state was changed from Mysore state to Karnataka. Now, once that during that time again, you also had a tiff between Devraj Aras on one side and Indira Gandhi on the other, and that was why there was, for a brief moment, Devraj Aras had come out of Congress as well, and eventually formed his own party called the Congress Aras. And this was very similar to how you had a split in the early 1960s of the Congress syndicate and the Congress others back in the early 1960s. Similarly, you had the Congress others try to fight against the Congress led by Indira Gandhi. Now,
So, before
yeah,
anything, is it Ar? Because a lot of North Indian call him Devraj Urs, but Ars is
uh,
the right pronunciation,
Aras.
right?
Yes,
Okay,
Aras,
sorry, didn't
the
mean to
name.
correct. Ha,
No, that's a common problem that every North Indian would have, simply because they would go by the anglicized spelling for it, where you call it URS, where you spell it URS, but it is
yes.
actually Aras. Aras in Kannada means a Raja or a king. So
Ha,
he belonged to an Aras community. We are who are loosely comparable to say Kshatriya clan. So he belonged to that kind of a community. Anyway, so again, he was one of the tallest leaders back then, probably the biggest, tallest leader. Uh, uh, quite famous for land reforms, quite famous for social engineering back then. Based on his political legacy, you have whole lot of leaders, including Ramakrishna Hegde, and now Siddaramaiah. Most of them have owe their allegiance to Devaraja. Now, once his era was over, you always had Gundurao, early 1980s Congress again. But 1983 was when everything changed. The first Janata Party government, where first non-Congress government led by Janata Party's Ramakrishna Hegde, again a Brahmin. Gundurao again was a Brahmin. Now, Ramakrishna Hegde was supported by BJP on the right, left parties, communist parties on the left, and pretty much everybody except Congress were supporting the government. So you had the first non-Congress government take shape. First government did not last long. He had to face the elections again, and he came back with thumping majority. 1985 was the second time he became the chief minister, and that was the period where a lot of panchayati raj devolution of powers to the local bodies happened. So again, that period is quite well known. Now, once this happened, you had Rajiv Gandhi be the PM at the center. Now, once um, Ramakrishna Hegde was kind of uh, defeated in a intra-party coup by Devegowda, you had again splinters within Janata Party, pretty similar to how we have witnessed all over the country. Janata Party just does not know how to stay as one single entity, right? Now, very similarly, you had in Karnataka as well the same problem. Now, Congress romped back into power in early 1990s. Virendra Patil was the chief minister, unceremoniously removed by Rajiv Gandhi from the airport here in Bangalore. There is a small story to that. I'll have to tell you folks about it. Virendra
Yes.
Patil actually fell ill. He had a paralysis stroke while he was the chief minister, hardly 1 year into being the CM. He refused to give up power. Um at the same time, the Congress High Command in Delhi kind of organized communal riots just to show Virendra Patil in bad light, so that there could be an excuse to get him out of power. Rajiv Gandhi came over to Bangalore. He went to one other place outside Bangalore. He had already made up his mind to get rid of Virendra Patil. Virendra Patil was definitely not in any mood to relinquish his seat. On the way back in Bangalore airport, he announced that we'll have a new government in another 4 5 days. Now, this led to a mini rebellion, but then we had a president's rule. Eventually, Virendra Patil, with his failing health, had to give way. And then you had, Bangarappa be the chief minister for 2.5 years. And then you had another Veerappa Moily, again a well known face in Delhi, be the chief minister for another 2 years. Now, removal of Virendra Patil was a very important event in Karnataka politics because Lingayat chief minister, after I think Nijalingappa, there was no Lingayat chief minister for 15, 16 years. Lingayats being the dominant community in the state. Now you had Virendra Patil,
Almost
Congress chief minister.
35%, right? Close to 35%.
Yes, yes. So Virendra Patil single-handedly, Lingayat himself, brought Congress back to power, and then Rajiv Gandhi unceremoniously removed him. And the anger of Lingayat had no limits. And ever since then, Lingayats have not looked towards Congress as an option. They flirted with Janata Party for a while. J.H. Patel and MP Prakash for a small time. But then at the same time, early 1990s, 1993, 1994 was when BJP in itself became a major potent force with Yedurappa catching all the limelight. So eventually you had entire Lingayat population of northern Karnataka, both northwest, which is Bombay Presidency, Bombay Karnataka and Hyderabad Karnataka, both regions overwhelmingly preferring BJP over Congress or even Janata Dal. Then you had, yeah, you wanted to
No, no,
say
no.
something, Aadit?
No, 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 no.
Okay,
Continue. And then I'm going to give an important factoid.
okay. And then immediately then 1994, 1995 was when you had a Gowda chief minister, a Wakkaliga chief minister, Janata Dal, under the leadership of Deve Gowda, had romped into power. They had won a lot of seats. And based on that, they did very well in the Lok Sabha election. So within 2 years, Deve Gowda moved over to Delhi. And then Janata Dal, instead of possibly making Siddaramaiah as the chief minister, who was the deputy CM then, they made J.H. Patel as the chief minister, primarily because Ramakrishna Hegde, who was once shortchanged by Deve Gowda, he kind of used this opportunity to prop up J.H. Patel to take kind of vengeance on Deve Gowda. But anyway, be that as it may, Siddaramaiah had his chance in the mid 90s. He couldn't be the chief minister from Janata Dal party. Now, he continued to be in that party till mid of 2002, 2003, no, 2004, 2005. We'll come back to that. But late 1990s was also when you saw S.M. Krishna, late 1999 was when S.M. Krishna romped into power again. That was the time when you had the famous rivalry between Bangalore and brand Hyderabad, with Chandrababu Naidu and S.M. Krishna trying to get as much IT investment, as much growth of these two cities. So that is most well known for people around the country. Uh, Sadly, S.M. Krishna had to deal with an image of being urban centric and not rural centric. So he handsomely lost the election in early 2000 and 2003, I believe, and that was when you had Yadurappa becoming the chief minister for the uh, mm, am I getting my numbers right? Yeah, Yadurappa becoming the chief minister for the first time back then. So that was the first term. Uh, Remember, you had Manmohan Singh government in Delhi, Congress government. You had a ex-Congress governor in Bangalore, and LK Advani in Delhi BJP. And somehow things did not go well between Yadurappa and LK Advani. Yadurappa got caught in a few land controversies, land grabbing controversies. He went to jail. He had to relinquish power. BJP luckily stayed as one unit for that entire term. You had minor stints for Jagdish Shettar and D.V. Sadananda Gowda. But then Yediyurappa came out of jail. He was mighty angry with the central leadership of the BJP party. He floated his own party. The Bellary mining baron Gali Janardhan Reddy, he also had been a major
Hmm.
organizing force in Hyderabad, Karnataka. He had helped in bringing BJP to power in 2003, 2004. He also was now angry with BJP, so you had one more splinter party there. So 2008 was when, 2013, I believe, was when uh, BJP was BJP was kind of uh, pushed to the third position with a mere 46. Now, from 110, BJP had come down all the way to 40, and that was when you had Siddaramaiah become the chief minister for the first time. This time he was in the Congress. He had already joined Congress in early 2000s. So he had a social experiment called Ahinda. Means Alpasankyata, Hind means Hindulida, which is backward. Alpasankyata is obviously minorities. The represents Dalita. So you had a social engineering of the minorities, the backward classes, and the Dalits as one single social entity, trying to pit them against the Vakaligas of the old Mysuru region and the Lingayats of the North
It
Karnataka
is a
region.
strange, similar thing to what Kham in Gujarat that they did. Of course, Kham had
Yeah.
Kshatriyas, but were Harijans, Adivasis, and Muslims. The reason they had Kshatriyas is, of course, Madhavji Solanki himself came up with this. But just that was a side thing. But finish your point on this. Yeah.
Yeah, so 5 years of no controversy, or I can't say no controversy, but no controversy in terms of power change. Siddaramaiah continued to be in power for 5 complete years, and 2018 was when BJP came back to power. They had won around 110 and 104, sorry, and that was when they had to win over a few MLAs from the other two parties, and eventually uh, Yediyurappa was the chief minister for about 1.5 to 2.5 years, and in the last 1.5 years, it was Basavaraj Bommai, who is the current chief minister, who himself is the son of an ex-chief minister, S.R. Bommai. S.R. Bommai
Mhm.
comes from the Janata Party, so Basavaraj Bommai has socialist or Janata Party roots to his political beginnings. Now, that's where we stand today. Uh, 2013 was when I told you that Congress had single-handedly won power under Siddaramaiah. Now that was when the Ahinda, the social engineering had happened, but that kind of angered all the other sections of the society. There were a lot of Hindu-Muslim clashes as well. When I say clashes, it was more not much on the street, but more in terms of academic debates on what status should Tipu get. the once upon a time ruler of
So so
Mysore.
so
Uh,
we'll get to that in the second part, that portion, because I
hmm,
that leads into the numbers and stuff. But before we get into the second part on the numbers, one very interesting thing I want to point out is I was looking at the history of Karnataka, and before Siddaramaiah, right, one
yeah,
of the longest serving chief minister, I mean, before Siddaramaiah, it was probably SM Krishna. Then he called the 1999 election. Apart from that, you would have to go for ages and ages back, decades back in Karnataka to find someone who completed a full term. It Karnataka
yes,
has had such fractured. So if I were to just go down the list, say from 1990, let's use that as a thing, or where Ramakrishna Hegde was, the tall
hmm,
leader. From there, Bommai becomes for less than a year. Then Virendra Patil for about a year, and Virendra Patil took Congress to 178 seats out of 224.
exactly.
No
It was more than two-thirds
CM,
majority.
no face has ever been able to get this number, and he was unceremonious. So at that time the Lingayats were obviously with the Congress, and then they obviously switched, and that also happened to coincide with the Ram Janmabhoomi movement, with Advani getting that
Yes,
additional, that national presence of the BJP. So and then that is why in post 1991, in 96, essentially BJP's three oldest catchment areas have been Uttar Pradesh, Gujarat and Karnataka. Everywhere else, Madhya
yes,
Pradesh and stuff, they have done. But post 96, I mean, Uttar Pradesh, they've oscillated back and forth, but Gujarat and Karnataka have consistently delivered. And that's why it was said that in 2009 election, when BJP was at its lowest, the only two metros that they won were Ahmedabad and Bengaluru. Otherwise, they lost every
just
single metro in India
this was in
at its low.
2009, right?
In 2009 when Advani was the
Yes,
PM face. And
yes,
so that is where Karnataka went in from 89 to 2009, where unlike Gujarat, where BJP had been there, Janasangh had been there for a long, long time. But that is the significance of Karnataka. So okay, from there, so the reason I brought it, so then you had Bomai, then you had Bangarappa in the 1990 for 2 years, then Virappa Moili, Devegowda again, couple of years, 1 year, and then Devegowda resigns to become the
Prime
prime
Minister.
minister. Devegowda has rumored to have said, ye maine kahin padha hai, I don't know, that
Hmm.
Devegowda said that the biggest blunder of my life is I gave up Karnataka to take Delhi and lost Karnataka forever.
Forever, I don't know.
As in,
Possibly,
the reason I mean forever, his is to get a simple majority. Then JDS
huh?
then became a
Yes,
sub-regional party of Karnataka, where it is old Mysore and some pockets. But in 1994, the Janata Dal actually swept Karnataka.
exactly. Yes, yes. So what he
So
could gain and master in Karnataka, he kind of lost it in Delhi. Yes.
exactly. So then SM Krishna becomes, and then you have the big Game of Thrones that happens in Karnataka, where Dharam Singh is there for 1.5 year. Dharam Singh's tenure is even more critical because that is where the whole Virappan thing happens.
Hmm.
I think when Dharam Singh was the chief minister, and Karnataka, of course, uske kuch years pehle, I remember as a child when the whole Rajkumar abduction happened, and Karnataka
Mm.
essentially came to a grinding halt with all sorts of
Yes.
protests and news. So from there you went to Dharam Singh, and then suddenly I remember as a young political enthusiast watching news, and then overnight I think BJP pulled a coup where HD Kumaraswamy ke sath they formed the government, and they were already in alliance with 58 seats, and Devegowda was like, I'm pained and I don't know what is happening. And this is when Devegowda was a part of the UPA, if I'm not mistaken. They were a part of the UPA JDS, maybe not officially, like not at the
Yeah.
national level, but they were supporting and all that stuff. So, anyways,
Yeah. Yeah. It was yeah. It was very similar to the Maharashtra story, where you didn't want. I mean, Sharad Pawar didn't want Ajit
right.
Pawar to go with Devendra Fadnavis.
So,
So
so
now here
yeah.
Devegowda did not want Kumaraswamy to go with BJP. But yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
but in ironically in both the cases it was a BJP chief minister whose tenure was cut short, because if it was
Hmm.
Fadnavis for a few hours, if it was
Yeah,
Yediyurappa in 7 days. So,
for 7 days.
but that
Correct.
7 days happened after 2 years of Kumaraswamy being the chief minister and Yediyurappa
Yeah,
being
it
the
was the
deputy.
yeah, of the 60 months of a Vidhan Sabha tenure, you had Dharam Singh as the chief minister for almost 20 months. So you had another 40 months left. And that was when the famous 2020 formula came into limelight. Kumaraswamy was to be the chief minister for 20 months,
That's right.
Yediyurappa to be chief minister for the next 20 months. Now
And
Yediyurappa
next
was
20 months.
gracious enough or possibly foolish enough to agree to become the deputy chief minister for the first 20 months to work under a more junior Kumaraswamy. But then when his turn came to become the chief minister, Kumaraswamy famously backed off, and again that led to one more shot in the arm for the BJP. All over North Karnataka, Lingayats felt that they had been cheated by Janata Dal secular, and that led to fresh impetus for the party to make further inroads everywhere in North and coastal Karnataka.
Hmm, hmm. So it was fascinating times, fascinating times. Um, so the reason I bring this up is from there BJP gets the mandate, to get all become all essentially run, but then BJP runs into problems of its own with replacement of chief ministers, and then KJP gets formed and BJP loses in
Mm.
2013, which they probably would have come back to power had Yediyurappa stayed on for 5 years.
Yes, yes.
This time, do you think I don't think I have read news if Baswaraj Bommai is still going to be the face for 5 more years. I don't think if he's not going to be, BJP is ever going to reveal that, because they don't want to lose the Lingayat vote, because you lose the Lingayat vote, essentially BJP the election is over.
The way I understand it is Basavaraj Bommai has started making the right kind of noise in the past 1 week, telling I will return back as the chief minister. So possibly Delhi central leadership may have indicated to him that if BJP wins, you will continue to be the chief minister. May not be for the full term, but at least initially. So I think Basavaraj Bommai may continue to be the chief minister if BJP wins, primarily for the reason that you mentioned. He is the Lingayat face of the party, may not be the tallest leader in the state, but suits BJP anyway. So yeah, that might be a certain possibility.
Absolutely. So I think that is absolutely going to happen. I think we can be rest assured. So moving from there to the current situation in Karnataka, right? Let's look at the current situation. Congress under DK Shivkumar had a great chance to do, because DK Shivkumar may not be the most popular Congress leader, but he has that organization capacity, the finances, absolutely, and that thing. And Siddaramaiah does not have the same pull that he did, right? So
Hmm.
what do you look at it? And now after you give this point, I'm going to talk about the historic results of Karnataka.
Okay. So again, two power centers for the Congress within the state. DK Shivkumar has been the leader in waiting for a long, long time. He believes that this is his chance to win the state for the Congress and therefore become the chief minister. Siddaramaiah thinks that he can become the chief minister for one last time, although he said the same thing in 2018 as well. So I don't know how many more one last times he would come back with. But yes, Siddaramaiah is kind of aging. He does not have the same strength anymore as DK Shivkumar. There are rumors, or there is a certain possibility that DK Shivkumar might choose candidates who are closer to him. Some of them are his relatives, some of them are his henchmen to get party tickets and therefore become MLAs, so that if there is a number strength game on who will become the Congress chief minister, if at all Congress wins, I think DK Shivkumar will be well positioned to push off Siddaramaiah and take the coveted chair. So I think that is where you have that one-upmanship happening between Siddaramaiah, Kuruba himself, a backward caste, Kuruba essentially means the shepherd community, and you have DK Shivkumar, who himself is a Gauda, a Wakaliga. So you have that kind of a tiff happening between them. Now, DK Shivkumar is moving around the entire Old Mysore region, asking the Gaudas or the Linga or the Wakaligas to vote for him, promising them that if they vote for him, he will become the next Wakaliga chief minister, and that should help them immensely. And that is his uh, bugle war cry for this election. Siddaramaiah, of course, is struggling, and I'll tell you the reason why. He was uh, historically contesting from a seat in the suburbs of Mysore called Varuna, and he gave it up for her son in 2018. Now he moved over to a neighboring seat. He lost it. He luckily had contested from one more seat in northern Karnataka. He barely managed to win that with a small margin of 1,000 and odd votes against Sri Ramalu, who himself is a Valmiki caste or Valmiki community leader of the BJP. Now, uh, Siddaramaiah does not want to go back to Badami, which the seat where he won in 2018. So now, in the past 1.5 years, there has been talk about where he will contest from. Everybody thought that he will contest from Kolar. Now, again, BJP thought, let's give him a tough fight. So there has been some amount of political maneuvering for the BJP within Kolar. Will they be successful or not? Nobody knows. But I think there has been enough doubt in the Congress High Command to deny Siddaramaiah that ticket. So essentially, apparently, Rahul Gandhi had told Siddaramaiah not to contest from Kolar, instead go back to Varuna. So Siddaramaiah now is snatching the seat back from his son, Yatindra, and contesting from Varuna one last time. But he claims that he has asked the High Command for permission to contest from Kolar again. Now, will he
Hmm.
contest from both the seats or not? If he contests, will he win from both or one or neither? That's the high pitched battle
Yeah.
that people are
and
going to
and
witness
and
now.
and, and Kolar is a Congress stronghold, but BJP managed to wrest it in 2019. My good friend Jayamru flagged it as a potential swing, and you said the same thing. Kolar, for the uninitiated, is also where the KGF movies take place, or what they're based on, the Kolar Goldfield. So,
Yes.
in case you don't know what the heck we're talking about, that's what it is. But let's go straight into the numbers then, Kishore, right?
Yeah.
Because I think we gotta talk about these. So let's talk about the election numbers. I'm going to pull up the 2013 map again, and we're going to talk
Hmm.
about it. um, BJP gets a 16% bump in the 2006 numbers, right? So how walk everyone through it. So why how what is the reason, and why, where are the gains for BJP coming, and how does JDS still manage to hold on its base?
Okay. 2000, rewind to 2013, Congress had won social engineering under Siddaramaiah, as I told you. Now he had managed to anger both the Lingayats from North Karnataka, Vokkaligas from South Karnataka, and his government was not as popular as he claims that to be. And the results are there for everybody to see. 2018 was a big victory for BJP. Essentially, Siddaramaia's Congress had lost from around 130 or 130, 122 all the way down to around 80. So that was how unpopular his government had become. Many ministers, I think 13 or 14 ministers, had lost their seats in 2018. Now,
Correct.
again, as you see, when you look at the map, North Karnataka, again, split that into two, Northwest, the Bombay, Karnataka. BJP managed to do very well in
Hmm.
Bagalkot,
And
Bijapur,
there is some
you
level
had
of
Belgavi, Hubli,
there is
Dharwad.
some level of polarization also in the Mumbai Karnataka region, right? The Bombay Karnataka
To an
region
extent, yeah.
that has.
I mean, polarization happens to the highest degree in coastal Karnataka, but in Kittur Karnataka and in Mumbai Karnataka also to an extent. Yes, and all that helped. Now, what one region where Congress did well was in northeast Karnataka, the Hyderabad Karnataka, where you see a lot of blue in Gulbarga, in Raichur, in Koppala, in Yadgiri. So all these districts were where Congress did very well in 2018. Now that was one reason why BJP could not cross the halfway mark and kind of got stuck at 104 simply because they could not win the Hyderabad Karnataka region
Hmm. Hmm.
convincingly. Now, come down to the bottom half of the state, and you see a lot more saffron and green. And I'll tell you the reason for it. Coastal
Hmm.
Karnataka, again, highly polarized region. Siddaramaiah was not popular there. He had ordered firing on some students and on BJP Karyakartas. So all that anger manifested in a complete saffron wave in coastal Karnataka. Central Karnataka, everybody knew that Yadurappa was back in BJP and he himself is from Shimoga, so that was a golden chance for them to have a CM from their region, so that helped. Now, in the southern part, the old Mysuru region was where JDS is a party which just refuses to die in the old Mysuru region. So what you see here is Hassan, Mandya, Ramnagara, Bengaluru, rural pockets of Tumkuru, Kolar, and of course Mysore district as well, where they do
Hmm.
convincingly well simply because of the Vakaligas becoming their vote bank. Now, again, everybody knows this, and let me repeat it for the audience. The entire family contest the elections in one form or the other. One of them contest for Lok Sabha, one of them contest for the Vidhan Sabha, some of them for the Jilla Panchayat. So you essentially have them everywhere in all three tiers of governance. Now, and that is the reason why they are kind of very uh, ever present in that region. Now, again, for historically, the Vakaligas have not looked at BJP as an option, and therefore, even in 2018, BJP struggled to have any inroads in the old Mysuru region. Hardly a few here and there in say Mysore district. And of course, I'm not talking about Bangalore. Bangalore is a separate political entity by itself. But yes, that is how things were. And Bengaluru, of course, BJP, I think, had won around 12 or 13 out of 28. And all that helped them to get to around 104. And initially, again, Yediyurappa was the chief minister for around 48 hours or so, and they tried to form the government. They did not. There were allegations that Yediyurappa was trying to win over the newly elected MLA from other parties. Be that as it may, BJP could not form the government. You had the famous photograph of all opposition leaders in the country standing on the steps of the secretariat. We call it the Vidhan Sauda, and that was when you had the murmur beginning of a united opposition, the Mahagathbandhan, taking shape. This was 2018, with just 1 year left for the 2019 Lok Sabha election. So you had Kumaraswamy becoming the chief minister, Congress supporting them as an alliance partner, and hoping that they could also do well in the 2019 Lok Sabha election. So this was the origin of the Mahagathbandhan, and we all know how long it lasted. It hardly managed to survive till the 2019 Lok Sabha election. Had absolutely disastrous results in Karnataka. BJP won 25 out of 28 seats in the state against the United Congress and Janata Dal Secular Alliance,
So,
and one 25 plus one because one independent was supported by BJP, and then one for Congress, one for JDS. So that
No,
was
that one
how
is very crucial. That one is very crucial. That is Amrish's wife, right?
Sumalata Ambarish. Yeah,
Sumalata Amrish from Mandya. And the reason I say it is because Mandya, Hassan, and Tumakaru. They are three old
Tumakuru. Yeah,
Mysore Tumakuru in the old Mysore region where the JDS is in big in contention. Mandya is always a bone of contention between Congress and JDS whenever they are in alliance. कि कौन खड़ा
oh
रहेगा
yes,
वहां से Hassan and Tumakuru to is completely JDS dominated, and then Bangalore rural, right? So
yes, yes.
except for DK Shivakumar's brother, I think they lost every seat. Correct, if I'm not mistaken. Or
Uh,
did they win Hassan? Hassan they won. I'm sorry.
Devan Hasan, that was Devegowda's grandson, Prajwal Revanna,
Devegowda's grandson.
and
Ha,
D.K. Shivkumar's brother, D.K. Suresh. So except for
ha.
these two, they were routed everywhere else.
Yeah, and Hassan essentially was because really Devegowda gifted it to his grandson कि भाई कुछ तो जीते, and Hassan is one seat that JDS is never going to lose really. Out of 8 MLAs, I think 6 are from JDS, and it's a dominated by Vocaligas, so you'll have that, and it's an entire family oriented seats everywhere. So that is
Yes,
interesting. But
it is like
I have to.
Baramati in Maharashtra. Yeah,
Correct. I actually was going to say this because just like you have Baramati, Madha, all these regions in Maharashtra, actually the similarities between the Pawar family and the Gowda family are huge because both of them refuse to take a backseat. I mean, good for them if they can fight and stuff, but that is the thing. Both of them refuse to retire and stuff like that.
yeah. Devegowda is in his early 90s. His health does not enable him to move around that freely anymore, but he continues to be a guiding force for the party. The party essentially is ruled by his younger son, Kumaraswamy. But yes, I mean, they cannot grow beyond the old Mysuru region, beyond the Gauda Vakaliga bastion. But somehow they managed to get their votes, keep their vote bank intact, and that adds that third flavor to the Karnataka political cuisine. Yes,
Sorry, I was
you're
on
on.
mute.
Yeah,
I was no, no, I was on mute. I was because I was going to the 2013 numbers, right? So 2013. Okay, there is the interesting part. Let me tell you. 2018 BJP is 36.3%, Congress is 38%, Kumaraswamy is 19%. Okay, 2013 BJP is Congress is 36.6, same number. Kumaraswamy is 20%. BJP is reduced to 19.9%. Where does that additional 12% go? Out of that 12%, 10% is with Mr. B.S. Yediyurappa. He gets 9.8%
BJP.
of the vote. Right, and then you have the 2% vote going to BSR Congress, which is B. Sriramulu's party, who is very close to the Reddys. So basically, there is no vote from BJP going to the Congress or the JDS, except for like 0.5% here or there. Essentially, the
Yes,
12% is going there, and that came back. Plus, there is an additional vote from JDS that came back from the old Mysuru region, but not as much to ensure a route. Okay, so this is the thing. What is interesting for me is that in 2008, where BJP got 110 seats, their numbers were less than 30. They were about 33%. Right, JDS was
yes.
still holding about 19%, and the others also got some seats, and JDU also got like 1%.
This happens because the strike rate for BJP is very, very high in North Karnataka and coastal Karnataka, and they hardly manage to win anything in old Mysuru region. And that's why, even with a lower vote percentage, they get to win those many seats. And Congress being a pan Karnataka party, even with a 36, 37, 38%, they struggle to form the government.
But let me ask you this then. Um, what explains the dominance of BJP in urban Karnataka? Is this a post-Hindutva reason, or you think BJP is seen more as an urban party? The reason I ask is SM Krishna, with what he did for Bangalore, or what he said, Congress should theoretically have swept Bangalore. But after SM Krishna goes from 1999, BJP has essentially swept Bangalore. And you call it the Yediyurappa or the Anant Kumar effect. Anant Kumar essentially was the tallest BJP leader from the Bengaluru area.
Yes.
But post 1999 and even now, BJP is set to do quite well in Bangalore. So can you talk a little bit about that, Kishore?
Yes. Again, BJP's origin here goes back to the Johnson days. Coastal Karnataka and certain pockets within the in other parts of the state were where they historically did well. But then you had the Anant Kumars and the Suresh Kumars and Ramchandra Gowdas who were actually keeping the party in fighting condition here in Bangalore, and that kind of augured well, so that even despite a very pro development, pro technology phase that SM Krishna had, despite that, I think he simply by virtue of not being a pro rural phase, I think he lost it. But having said that, you are very correct in telling that Congress should have at least swept Bangalore, which
Correct.
certainly did not happen. So essentially, you try to convince one, you try to pander to one section, you end up pandering none. That's the takeaway from this entire experiment. You try to pander to one social engineering group of Ahinda, you end up pandering to none. Again, a lesson takeaway from Siddharamaya's experiment. So that is essentially what we have seen here. Now,
Correct.
the reason the reason that we ascribe for this is late mid 1990s, late 1990s Ram Janmabhoomi, yes. But if you see, Hyderabad and Bangalore were two such cities where they were overwhelmingly voting for the BJP. You had the Bandaru Dattatreya, you had the Anant Kumar. They all were doing well. They all were winning their Lok Sabha seats. So two, three, four seats around those were actually places where BJP would do well, incrementally well, and that is what we were witnessing there. Now, again, we all know what happened in Andhra. BJP went into an alliance with Telugu Desam, and that somehow stifled the party there. But out here, that was not the case. I mean,
No,
BJP
but
always
BJP almost made
contested
that
elections
same mistake.
alone.
Yes, but BJP almost made that same Nitish Kumar wala mistake where HD Kumaraswamy with less number of seats was able to become CM first before that, right? And then same thing happened in Bihar where Nitish Kumar was allowed to take the lead, even with same thing in Odisha with Naveen Patnaik, and same thing in Andhra. So BJP as a the problem about history is, right, selective quotations. When people say, oh, BJP went from 182 to 160, no, BJP's popularity was way more than 182. But they made a lot of
Hmm.
concessions for Nitish Kumar, for Chandrababu Naidu, for Naveen Patnaik. I think BJP would have been 200, 210 at that time had they not made those concessions and had they not blundered in Uttar Pradesh the way they did.
Luckily
And
for
Karnataka
BJP
mein,
in Karnataka,
yeah, no, just to add, Karnataka mein, thanks to Yediyurappa, I think they did make the same blunder because he kept
yes,
the
I
nubs of the political entity in his vote.
absolutely. Now, the only difference between, say, a Bihar or an Andhra Pradesh and Karnataka is that in Karnataka, BJP never fought elections together with JDS. They always fought independently, and that helped them in the longer run. Now, even I mean, the point that you were making a little while ago that BJP people in Bangalore voted for BJP even in 2009. So I think that was the nationalistic appeal that BJP always had for the Bangalore voters, and
No,
they continue to prefer BJP even when UPA romped back to power. Then,
and I have a thing about 2009, man. 2009 was the most loyal BJP voter coming out. The 2009 election was showing that ये voter BJP के हाथ से कहीं नहीं जाने वाला. So you had the benchmark set, which was about 19 to 20% national vote. उसके ऊपर नीचे ही सब
mm.
हुआ है. That's what I
Yeah.
feel.
So, I mean, this was just a few months after the Mumbai blast, right? You had, I mean, that kind of set the tone for the 2009 election. And despite all that, BJP did well in certain pockets, managed to get its core vote base come out and vote for them. So I think that was what that was probably the lowest point for the party. and they only had one way to go after that, even within the state as well.
So let's look at something else then. Let's look from there. Let's get to the contemporary. Okay, so in the last part of the podcast, the last few minutes, we are going to talk about the what is 2000. And guys, this is not the only podcast. We will do another one also, because it is not possible to we've already hit the almost the 1 hour mark. So the last few minutes I have to focus on the numbers that have come out now, and then we'll do a second part in the few weeks to come, which will be a proper seat by seat preview of what happens district by district preview. So for now, I'm going to read out what the opinion polls have said right now, and and again, this is a caveat, but देखो, since the numbers are out, हमें बात करनी पड़ेगी, and I mean, the usual caveats apply. I'm just going to assume that everything everyone did was correct. I mean, some very reliable folks like C Voter has given the post. Yashwant, does good analysis and stuff. So one may disagree, whatever, but whenever they do, but he has given his numbers. So let's just assume कि दो नंबर आए हैं. One is from, I think, South First People's Pulse, and the other is Sea Water. The South People's Pulse came in January 2023, so I mean that I'm not counting right now. They've talked about a hung assembly, and I think that's similar to what Kishore and my analysis is, by the way. I think, but let's go to the Sea Water. Kishore has a fabulous thread on Twitter, by the way, on that. So let's talk through these numbers, Kishore. Seawater gives 115 to 127 to Congress, 68 to 80 to the BJP, and 23 to 35 for the JDS. I think the JDS numbers we more or less agree. They will be around the 30 mark. They always oscillate between 30-40. It is the
Yes.
BJP numbers and Congress numbers where I have my doubts, because I personally think we are headed for a hung assembly with BJP, and then we are headed for a Congress. Even if they are ahead, they'll be marginally ahead right now, like 85 to 95 range. Now, what is your perspective?
A few things here. What are the tilting factors for Congress to win? What should happen for Congress to win? Either the Gaudas, the Vakaligas should vote en masse to DK Shivkumar, or the North Karnataka Lingayats should favor Congress, or in coastal Karnataka, Congress should win. Now, none of this seems to be happening, and I'll tell you the reason. Coastal Karnataka, you had communal clashes, you had a bomb blast by PFI activists, you had the hijab ban issue, so you already have a polarized region there. So I don't think Congress will win they'll win pretty much just one or two seats in coastal Karnataka. So Congress cannot gain anything there. Northern Karnataka, say in say Hyderabad, Karnataka again, they had already won handsomely there, and they cannot win anything more. In fact, I feel that they might actually lose. Congress might actually lose many seats there simply because of multiple factors. Obviously, coming into campaign, BJP themselves doing well, a few scheduled tribes and scheduled castes getting an altered reservation mathematical changes there. So I think all that might actually help BJP in Hyderabad, Karnataka. Bombay, Karnataka, Mumbai, Karnataka, of course, there has always been a neck-to-neck fight between BJP Congress. Even this time around, I don't see anything changing. So Congress cannot gain anything even there, which only leaves the old Mysuru region, where if you are giving 20, 25 to 30, 35 to JDS, then obviously it means that Congress cannot win more than say 15 to 20 in that region. Essentially, what I'm hinting at is it can be a repeat performance for the Congress in 2023, the same that they had in 2018. How many did they have in 2018? They had around 78 to 80. And I feel that Congress might actually repeat the same thing.
Yes.
The
What
numbers
is
that are given here, 115 to 127, which I feel seems to be a bit of a stretch. Now, with regards to BJP though, BJP has not lost any communities as such. In fact, they have been able to pocket a few more communities, scheduled castes. Scheduled castes, a few of them, scheduled tribes, of course, the Banjaras, the Lamanis in the Hyderabad Karnataka region, they have got certain benefits. They have got certain land reforms that have been done there. So BJP actually might gain a few more there. Uh, Old Mysuru region is where they know that they are the third powerful party there. So they are trying their level best. So I think BJP might actually gain more rather than Congress gaining more. And I agree with you when you say that BJP might be the single largest party. Will they actually cross the halfway mark? Only time will tell. We still don't know the candidates. We still don't know who
Correct.
is pitted against whom.
I
So
am
early days
okay to
here, but
say,
yeah,
yeah, I am okay to say that it could be a dead heat where BJP and Congress almost end up with within 5 seats of each other, and then Congress JDS forms the government, or BJP forms the government with independence, depending on how what is the JDS's number, whether they'll be the kingmakers or not. Um, One very interesting thing I want to point out, boss, here is a big caveat. Yashwant is holding his numbers with a 6% difference between 5 to 6% vote share difference between BJP and
hmm,
Congress. Except for when Yediyurappa split the BJP with KJP, this has never happened in a lot
this
of
has never
elections.
happened. Yeah,
And I'm talking about the last 20, 25 years, last five elections. I think post 2004, this has never happened. Such big of 5% vote share. If the 5% vote share happens, absolutely Congress will get 120, because getting a 40% vote share in a quasi three-cornered contest is huge, right?
yes,
But I,
totally
I,
agree.
I,
Yeah.
I doubt it. I doubt it. So what do you think, Kishore?
And I don't think you will have a 2 to 3% swing away from BJP towards the Congress. That is something that I don't see happening, and therefore this lead of 5.5% that Yashwant is talking about is something that seems difficult to comprehend.
And that guys is the big caveat of this sort of thing. But one thing is for sure, this is probably the closest election in the recent history of Karnataka where each seat is up for grabs. Each I mean, when I say each seat, is because there are always going to be 40 seats for BJP, 40 seats for Congress, and 15 seats for JDS. They're always going to win, right? But uske alawa, right, that is more than half the seats are up for grabs, right? So all of those will be contested, fiercely contested. Even the so-called caste combinations, the complications will go and will take off a window. So part two, we're going to focus on that and how the districts will vote and stuff. But before we conclude part one, Kishore, any concluding thoughts and anything you want to wrap up this podcast with?
Uh, a waveless election, we have no wave absolutely, and there is no major issue as such. Although Congress seems to be raking up a 40% commission, Sarkara, double engine failure, that kind of a rhetoric. I don't see that translating on the street. So I doubt if people will buy into that argument, but you never know what happens on the polling day. But right now, that does not seem to be happening. So essentially, we might be looking at 224 mini elections where you have a lot of MLA level anti-incumbency,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that might actually help BJP to actually field newer candidates rather than go with their old
ये मेरे
uh,
भाई
set
आपने
of.
ये मेरे भाई आपने राजदीप सरदेसाई वाली बात बोल दी, दैट इंडिया इज अ लैंड ऑफ 543 इलेक्शंस टाइप. सो
Uh, yeah, but sadly, that is how elections are conducted in the country, right? So you have that dynamic changing from constituency to constituency. Otherwise, we would not have had 25 for BJP in 2019 and one independent, where that independent actually defeated another grandson of Devegowda, Nikhil Kumaraswamy, son of Kumaraswamy. So fascinating is an understatement for Indian politics, and that's where you have demographics playing a role, you have caste arithmetic playing a role, alliance playing a role, adjustment politics playing a role. So you have a lot of things happening simultaneously. So that's what I believe in. There is no wave, absolutely nothing whatsoever.
करेक्ट.
Can be a fight for a 1% here, a 0.5% there kind of a scenario, and that
Before
is what we are looking at.
Before we wrap up, just wanted to take you guys through the insanity that is Karnataka elections. Look at 2013, 122 for Congress, 40 for Kumaraswamy, 40 for BJP, and then 10 for Yediyurappa. Matlab 6 for him and 2, 3 for Sri Ramulu. Um, Before that was 2008 when BJP won 10, Congress 80, Kumaraswamy 28. Before that was 2004 where BJP was 80 or 79, Congress was 65. This was the SM Krishna game changer election where SM Krishna lost more than half seats. And
Yes.
Yediyurappa and Siddaramaiah, who at that time was in JDS, led them to 58 seats, right? And I think the whole issue with Kumaraswamy was that Siddaramaiah is getting more sort of footage.
Right.
Super, you have 99, again same thing, right, where JDS only has 10 seats, and 94 because JDS is a new party at that time. Devegowda romps to power with 115 for that, and BJP is at goes from 4 to 40 again, that 1989 to 1994. And Virappa Moily, Mr. Moily, that people forget, has led Congress from the historic Virendra Patil number of 178 down to 34. Yeah, this was a peculiar tendency with all Congress chief ministers there. Madhavji Solanki leads them to 149. They're down to 30 in Gujarat in 1990. Virappa Moily does the same thing there. So I always say that the great Rajiv wave, people forget that Rajiv Gandhi's hagiographers these days, when they want to praise Rajiv Gandhi, forget that what all rubbish Rajiv Gandhi did in the states, which led to the decline and absolute decimation of Congress after him.
I mean, same thing continued even with Sonia Gandhi at the helm. And who can forget Y.S. Rajshekar Reddy winning back-to-back terms? But then after his demise, Congress was nowhere. Congress managed to bifurcate the state, but then Congress itself got routed in the state. Anjaya and Kiran Kumar Reddy finished the term for Congress, but then after that, Congress was nowhere, both in Telangana and in Andhra Pradesh. So yeah, I mean that high command way of ruling from Delhi for Congress, that does not seem to change. And when you are doing the same thing, you cannot expect any different result as well.
The definition of stupidity, my friends, is doing the same thing and expecting a different result. So we shall not talk about Rahul Gandhi being nominated as the third time after two stellar election losses. But the Congress seems to be in that situation. They are not cashing in on the places they can, and they're completely sort of dropping the ball. Be it the issues, the social issues that people are talking about in the education sector and others. But that and all those election analysis await part 2 of our Karnataka podcast. The first is the history of Karnataka politics. I hope we did a decent job trying to explain it to you. Before we let you go, Kishore, any recommendations that you have for our listeners, viewers today?
Politics apart, Karnataka has a very big green cover. It has a lot of forest cover, and there is a new documentary that has come out in on Amazon Prime called Gandha the Gudi. Gandha the Gudi translates to a temple of sandalwood, or a sandalwood temple, essentially implying that Karnataka is that kind of a state where you have a lot of sandalwood grown. And this documentary is the last movie of Puneet Rajkumar, son of Dr. Rajkumar, and it was a fascinating docudrama or a documentary of the wildlife of Karnataka. So if anybody is interested in that, please do watch it. It's fascinating to see the kind of diversity that you have, even within wildlife as such, in a state like Karnataka.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
and the tagline for Karnataka tourism is one state, many words, and you would see that in our wildlife as well.
Absolutely. My recommendation would be the same, to read about the cultural diversity of Karnataka, from the cuisine to the regions to the religions. Um, I am a Jain myself, and most of our most beautiful Jain literature is written in Karnataka. The Kannada poet Pampa is known as Adikavi amongst Jainism, the first poet. There is the Gomateshwara, a big temple with
Monolith statue, yeah.
yes, a statue which is actually not a statue of a Tirthankar. Bahubali Swami is the second son of the first Tirthankar, Lord Adinath, and where there is the in Shravana Belagola, where there is a Mahamastak Abhishek done every 12 years. And very, very important place for within Jains also. There's the Shvetamba Jains and Digamba Jains, and everyone has that. I learned a very few years ago that what we call Derasar temples in Karnataka, it's called Basadi, I think.
Vasadi, yes.
Basadi, yes. So Kishore, I always surprise my friend Kishore by trying to learn as accurate Kannada pronunciations as I can, because I believe that there is such rich beauty in our language, in our culture, in our cuisine, in the beautiful things that we have to offer, that whenever we talk about politics, divisions, polarizations, discussions, ultimately what unites us is the love for all these. And that's
Absolutely,
what
yes.
we want to leave you with. And we'll come back to talk about those same political realities and stuff, but the both are possible: a discussion on a deep dive into the political history, and a deep dive also into the cultural roots, or the ethos of many such realities that we talk about.
Yes,
So
absolutely. So, yeah, the cuisine, the culture, again, another talking point, but we can keep that for later.
yeah,
But
we
yeah,
have to. No,
right
we have
now,
to. So if you are if you are people who want to talk about Canada culture, we'll talk a little bit about that too, and how it has impacted historical voting trends also in part two. So thank you all for joining us for this initial history of Karnataka politics. In part two, we'll talk about the contemporary more of the contemporary issues. We काफी बात की है, more of the contemporary issues, what shaped, and then we'll talk about Lok Sabha. Like I said, that we haven't even discussed how Karnataka votes in the Lok Sabha and how that has impacted the Vidhan Sabha elections. So stay tuned. But thank you once again, Kishore, for joining in. I think we'll do part two in probably a couple of weeks, and keep our folks posted. We'll have another episode in between part one and part two, but and we are not recording both parts together. So in case you think so, part two we will try to cover the issues that have come up in the last 2 weeks. But once again, thank you so much, Kishore, for joining. It's always a pleasure, but it's a fascinating discussion today.
this was fun, Adit. Thank you very much, and looking forward to more discussion.
Absolutely. And guys, like, share, subscribe. Please follow Kishore. That's his handle listed there on Twitter. Please follow his work. We'll put all the relevant links, and then send this to your friends. And keep writing to us on what you want us to talk about, or if you disagree with anything we talked about. We love debates, and we would love to see where we can get into a spirited debate with our listeners and viewers. But till then, from me, Adit and Kishore, it's goodbye, and we'll be back next week with another podcast. Thank you.